attention to Brock and Andy.
Okay, this is Andy. He's going to be teaching us about journalism and copycat killers and how journalism sensationalizes school shootings.
Good job, Brock.
I'm going to start with this. Those are just a few of the more than 200 people that have been killed in school-related shootings since March 24th, 1998. Anybody have any idea what that date is? March 24th, 1998? That was, yeah? What?
Columbine?
Nope. Columbine was April 20th, 1999.
Oh, yeah.
March 24th, 1998 was when two kids in Jonesboro, Arkansas pulled the fire alarm in their school and then sat in the woods across the street and shot people as they came out. The kids that did that were, I believe, 11 and 13 years old. Yeah, not very good day. So when that happened, though, the news was everywhere. They just bombarded the town. It was all over the news. And I remember thinking to myself, how many kids are sitting around watching this thinking, that's cool, those guys are on TV. So, you know, life goes on. I kind of forgot about it. Columbine happened, seen it again, same thing happened. Same question came up. Does journalism sensationalize school shootings? So, for the speech, what I did some research on this, and there's three primary things that I researched, and those are psychology behind school shootings and mass murders, the history of school shootings, and the media timeline revolving around those. So to start with psychology behind school shootings and mass murders in general, because there's also just, can't remember the name, but killers in general, there's people who do it via rage, and then there's serial killers, and then there's mass murders. Serial killers generally do it, over a time frame, where mass murderers will do it all in one day without a cooling off period is what they call it. So the psychology behind it, though, as far as mass murderers go, I like Park Elliott Dietz' theory of there's three different types of mass murderers. The first one are family annihilators. Those are people that are having, we're going to find out, generally depressed males that are really into their family and they're not happy with life, so they want to kill themselves, but they don't think that anyone else can take care of their families once they're gone, so they take them with. Other than that, you have the set and run. These are the people that set bombs and take off. Oklahoma City bombing, Unabomber, etc. Beyond that, we have the pseudo-commando type, which is generally in the military garb and guns, and they plan and deliberate. That's the one that school shooters fall into, the pseudo-commando, if you weren't aware of that. Other than that, on the psychology side, are school shooters bullied? Everyone in this room, according to the audience analysis, said yeah, and you're right. They are. Numerous studies have shown that they are bullied. The Secret Service did a study after Columbine and determined that yes, they are bullied. And there's been numerous studies since then also. Is there anything else? Yeah, there is. Other studies show that most school shooters are also psychotic, depressed, delusional, just have general mental issues. But they generally have friends. School shooters are a little bit different than, say, like the older college kids. Like the Virginia Tech massacre, nobody knew that was coming. Columbine, people knew it. They told people they were going to do it, but nothing happened. Nobody stopped them. So school shooters generally have friends, and they will tell their friends what's going to happen. So the history of school shooting, when we look at the history, we're going to break it down into three main time periods, from 1900 to 1960, and from 1960 to 1998, March 24th, 1998 to be exact, and then from 1998 on. So from 1900 to 1960, there's a 60-year span of there's 42 school shootings. And there weren't a whole lot because guns were not readily available, especially earlier on. Kids didn't have access to guns, stuff like that. So not very often. The next one is 1960 to 1998, just a 38-year period, yet there's 136 school shootings. But what happened during that time is guns became more available. The reason guns became more available during that time is foreign conflicts. Foreign conflicts actually are great generators of cheap weapons. Dare I say AK-47? They're everywhere. I own one. And I got it very, very cheap. So they're everywhere. Then you have from 1998 to 2010, there's only a 12-year time frame, 112 school shootings. Drastic increases. And when we get into media, we'll get into see how that plays into some of this here. So to put that on a chart, you can see from 1900 to 1959, there was only about, it was 0.2, 0.19. In primary schools, it was 0.2, and then secondary and college, it's 0.19 shootings per year, so about one shooting every 5 years from 1900 to 1959. When you get into 1960 to 1998, you can see the primary doesn't change that much, but secondary went up to about 2 school shootings per year, and then college was still under 1. From 1998 to 2010, look at the secondary schools. There's over 6, on average more than 6, in secondary schools alone every year in the last, and to be honest, that actually goes back to about 1985, so we're in the mid-'80s, late 80s. So how does the media play into all this, and what's the timeline of the media on this? We're going to keep it the same, keep it simple. 1900 to 1960. In 1938, there were only 200 TVs around. 1948, there were 1 million TVs around. So from 1900 to 1960, you know, the TV viewership in America just grew exponentially. From 1960 to 1998, this is really where everything started changing, obviously. It's a 38-year period, the peak of technology changes. In 1962, though, AT&T launches their first Telstar satellite, which is the first satellite that carried TV signals. So now we're international. We're everywhere. We're not just locally. Because before that, if you look at school shootings before that, it was always, or workplace shootings also. If one would occur, maybe within the next month or so, you'd see 1 or 2 more occur in the same area, very similar. After that, it doesn't happen that way anymore. It happens all over the place. And then in 1984, the Cable Act, the 1984 Cable Act invested $15 billion. People invested $15 billion into the cable network and the infrastructure, and that's actually when I got cable at my house. Actually, a little before that, but so again, if you look at the history of the time of school shootings, you'll see that around that time is when they really start going up. Other than that, all the 24-hour news shows started in the mid-'90s. MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, they all started in the mid-'90s, mid to late '90s. Then from 1998 to 2010, over 4 trillion TVs in the world now, which is a whole bunch of zeros. Most people are getting their news 24 hours a day. They expect their news 24 hours a day. That's the biggest thing. So you can see the timeline and how it relates to school shooting in general. What are the goals of media companies? The goals of media companies are to make money. Period. End of story. That's it. They're in business to make money. If they don't make money, they're not going to be around. How do they do this? Viewers. Just like magazine subscriptions, viewer subscriptions, they pay their bills by viewers because they pay by ads. The more people watch, the more they pay. How do they get viewers? By making stories interesting. That's it. And saturating the market. Jonesboro, Arkansas, within a couple days of that happening, there were over 200 people from the media in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And I think it's a town of around 15,000 people. Just crazy how many journalists were down there. So here's some examples of the media's power. Robert Hawkins killed 8 people in an Omaha mall. Actually, the mall was Westward's Mall. If you guys were over 12 or 13-year-olds, were mall rats. That's the mall I used to hang out at when I was a kid. But in his suicide note, just think, though, I'm going to be effing famous, is what he said. And then Eric Harrison, Dylan Klebold, Columbine. In their videos, they talked about wanting to outdo the Oklahoma City bombing and the immolation of the Branch Davidians. So putting it all together, does journalism sensationalize school shooting? There's no doubt it does. However, there's a lot more things involved. If you look at the mentality of the people that do it, the family histories that they have, all the issues they have, the psychotic, the depressed, all that stuff, add that up with the media's impersonation of, or I guess impression of school shootings, and we know why they've gone up so much. School shootings gone up so much. Yeah. Any questions?
I have one.
Go for it.
What interested you in this topic? Why did you select it?
I can go right back to the very beginning in the Jonesboro. I remember sitting down. I remember who I was sitting with, but I was sitting down with a couple of people and watching the news.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, it was everywhere. Every time you turned the TV on for weeks after Jonesboro, that's all you ever saw. And I remember thinking, there's troubled kids out there that are going to watch this. Because I was almost 30 years old at the time. I was thinking, there's got to be kids out there that think this is cool. They're famous.
Go out in a blaze of glory kind of a
Right.
concept or philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Very good. Thank you. Very good.
Now you after that.
Oh, Chris, now come on.
Let's do this.
Let's get her done.